After working with over 1,300 different entrepreneurs, I don't think people really realize how much the fear of getting haters is controlling their message, controlling their sales, hurting their business, hurting their authenticity, and stealing their personal power and their energy. And today I wanted to do an episode to talk about some of my experiences with haters, how I've dealt with them, how I look at it, and what does it really mean when you get a hater? What's really going on? Why is someone leaving those comments? And how can you deal with it so you can powerfully operate your business, live in true authenticity of who you are, maintain your personal power? Because I believe to my core, powerful people create powerful messages. And this episode is dedicated to exactly that. So keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we are talking about haters. We're going to be talking about how to deal with haters, what's really going on when it comes to haters, and all of that good stuff. One of the reasons why I wanted to jump into this topic of haters is that, I think it's a little bit more toxic than people realize that it is. And I think it is a bigger issue that's affecting people more than they think that it does. And there's a couple reasons as to why that's happening. And I think there's a lot of reasons, as a lot of people will not post certain things, not speak their mind, not be as authentic as they can be, which means they start to hide themselves. They start to hide their truth. They start to hide who they are in order to avoid haters. And I think that if we can get ourselves to a spot where that doesn't affect us as much, we focus more on internal work and focus than external, because that's what haters are. Haters are an external element that is here to try to rob you from your message, rob you from your business, rob you from your greatness, to steal your personal power. And all of those things are required in order to have great messaging, a great business. And honestly, they're all required to have just peace of mind and internal solitude and internal happiness and internal contentment. And so what I wanted to do is just hop in and give you guys an episode talking about my experience with haters, some of the things that I've had to deal with, how I've overcome them, what's really going on. After running millions of dollars worth of ad spend, you get a lot of exposure to a lot of people. And you get it pretty quickly, which also means that you get a lot of exposure to some of the most toxic people on the internet. And so there have been a lot of different comments that I've gotten, people wanting to argue with me, people calling me names, people telling me that I should kill myself. I've had so many different types of comments that they just don't faze me anymore. I just don't care. Like, I can literally have someone write in the most mean, nasty, disgusting thing to me, or even say it to me on a call or whatever it might be. And I will move on throughout my day and be totally happy and totally fine. And I don't let people control the actions I take or the message that I want to present. And, my message can be a little polarizing. My message of standing up for what you believe in and not following the norms, and specifically like getting rid of doing educational content 100% of the time. And, part of my message is also like not stop sending our kids to college automatically are all things that can ruffle people's feathers, because I personally strive for change. I personally strive for let's improve the things that need improving. And I don't care if we've been doing it one way for 50 years. All sorts of things like the educational system. Yeah. Let's jack it up. Let's change it up. Let's do something different because they're not preparing our kids for the future. Like educational content, you don't need to do it all the time. So stop doing it all the time. In fact, it could be causing the problem. Stop sending our kids to college. I also believe that college is one of the biggest scams, or has become one of the biggest scams out there, because it doesn't really help you make money anymore, depending on what field you're going into. But I don't know. I just think it's effing crazy to send our kids to college and have them pick what they want to do for the rest of their life at the age of 18. Just sounds a little bizarro. But the idea here is that I say things that can possibly ruffle feathers, but I don't really care if they ruffle your feathers, because it's what I believe in and it's a change that I want to stand for. And if you want to stand against it, that's totally fine too. Everyone should be able to stand up for what they believe in. But when people don't do that, it's usually because they're afraid of something. They're afraid of what people are going to think. And haters can come on all shapes and sizes. It could be your parents, your friends, your mom, your dad, which I guess are parents, which I just said, but boyfriends, girlfriends, spouses, siblings. I mean, it's so many different people. And I've had to deal with all sorts of things and stuff. You know, when I first started my business, my mom, some of you may know this story. When I first started my business, I worked out of my in-laws' house and we lived there rent-free. And so I would go to my parents' house every day. So my parents lived maybe 2 miles down the road, and I would go to my parents' house to work just to get out of the house that I was living in. And I would go there, and every day my mom would tell me, Brandon, don't you think you should go get a real job? Don't you think you should go get a real job? And I technically would, and I have that in quotes, technically consider that a form of dealing with a hater. Obviously it's my mom and she loves me, but also those are also the people whose opinions mean the most to you and whose approval means the most to you. And so although it wasn't intentionally to be, negative or an attack, it still was something that I had to deal with emotionally. And because I'm like you, I knew there was something more for me. I wanted to start a business. I wanted freedom. I didn't want to do the status quo. I wanted to do something different. I just knew it in my gut. And so to have your mom tell you those things every day really started to get to me. But there was something that started to happen is I went to a place or a program called Landmark Forum, which I know some listeners have gone to, and perhaps if you're listening, you have gone to. And there was a concept in there that talks about how we attach meaning to certain things. And so, we go through life and events happen and people say things. And what happens is our mind, our subconscious mind, automatically attaches a meaning to what that event meant. And so when I realized that, I started looking at my mom and going, you know what? All that happened was that she said words. That was it. Like she just mentioned words and that was it. That was the event. And I made it mean my mom doesn't believe in me. My mom doesn't see my vision. And I started to go through all these meanings that I was attaching to it. My mom was trying to control me. And then I started to realize I had my own insecurities to deal with. Like, who cares if my mom was trying to control me? Who cares? My mom doesn't need to see my vision in order for me to move forward with my vision. And I started to realize that she was doing it because she was trying to protect me. And the only way she knew how. She doesn't know anything about online business or business in general. In fact, my dad had a business and it didn't work out. And so she had that experience from her past that was telling her, like, maybe this isn't the best thing. And so she was trying to protect me. And so just by switching the meaning and looking at it from a different perspective, I totally released myself of the suffering that I was causing. And I was causing that suffering all on my own. And so I've been able to do that over and over and over again. And I was able, and the reason why I share that story is because I want you to think about me in that scenario. And I want to ask you, like, do you think I have a better chance of becoming successful when I had the interpretation or the meanings that my mom is trying to control me? I don't like coming over here. She doesn't believe in me. She doesn't get it. Or do you think I would be better chances of becoming more successful with the interpretation of, wow, my mom really loves me. She really cares about me. I'm going to do this and I'm going to show her so I can change her perspective. Like, which way do you think is going to be more powerful? Probably the latter, right? So that's the first thing I kind of wanted to go over is that sometimes you have to understand that when someone is a hater or they leave a nasty comment or they do something, And I'm going to go through a bunch of reasons why it happens and how to handle it. But sometimes the easiest way to, especially if it's someone close to you, is look at their perspective or attach a different interpretation or meaning to it, because sometimes you can't avoid it. Like, it's very easy. Sometimes it's almost easier to avoid the online comments, even though they may be nastier. All it takes is a delete and block, and you'll never hear from that person ever again. But sometimes the people closest to you who just don't get it can be the type of hater. And again, I'm using that term a little loosely when it comes to family and stuff who love you. But sometimes those haters can be the hardest ones to deal with. But I found when we are able to attach a different meaning, give it a different perspective, understand where they're coming from, it allows you to operate in a much more powerful place. Okay. So let's talk about haters. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is actually why it happens is inside of the online business space and why it's actually a good thing. And we hear it all the time. We hear like, okay, cool. Like haters are a sign that you're doing something great, right? But understanding or hearing that definition, it doesn't really make it feel any better when it happens, especially for the first time. So a great reframe is like, yeah, cool, I'm doing something right, but it still sucks. Like getting that comment or whatever, following something that you believe in, following your passion and putting yourself out there, and then all of a sudden getting a hateful comment and then telling yourself, well, it must mean I'm doing something right, is a great perspective, but it still stings. It still hurts. We don't want to bury our emotions of it. We want to process it and understand it. But what I want you to understand is if you are truly who you are, you embrace your values, embrace your identities, you embrace your perspectives, what will start to happen is you will get haters because, yeah, you are doing something right. But what it also does is for every hater, I promise you, there's going to be 10 people that needed that message, that believe in that message just as much as you do, who are now connecting with you because of that. And when you start getting haters, I think the greatest perspective you can have is that it actually means that not that you're necessarily doing something right. What it means is that you're actually developing a deeper connection with people that need your message and your expertise and your knowledge. And that's a really powerful place to operate from, because when you start to realize that, yeah, you're getting haters, but for every hater, there's 10 more people that are now more aligned with you and need your message, it becomes a very powerful place because you're more focused on the change you're making and the suffering you're ending versus the one person that you may have offended. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I feel like society needs to do a better job not getting offended at every little thing. Like, can people just live their life and you can ignore them and you go live your life? Like, is that a possible thing? It feels like every little thing people do now is just offending someone. And I'm kind of the belief of like, let them be offended because that's their own issue. If it's something that you truly believe in, I promise you there's people that also believe in the same thing, that need your message, needs the change you're making, and need the suffering. And if someone wants to get offended by it, great, let them be offended by it. They have their own work to go do to not be so controlled by the external world, because you are part of the external world to them and they are part of the external world to you. And so what you have to realize is that this just means when you start to get haters is that you're building a deeper connection. And so if you're an NGM student, you obviously understand this. And if you've been in my ecosystem for a while, you understand this as well. The connection is formed through beliefs, identities, and values. And we see that with our spouses or people that we really like or quote unquote click with or connect with. We don't have to think about whether or not we connect with them or like them. We just do automatically. But if we break down what's really going on beneath the surface, it's that you guys have similar values and or similar beliefs on certain things and or similar identities, meaning you're both parents or you're both business owners or you're both athletes or you're both whatever it may be. And so when we start to incorporate all those things, a lot of people will take those on as threats to their identity, threats to their beliefs, threats to their values. Or, there might be some insecurities that they have. But on the same side of it, you'll be developing a deeper connection with your audience. And when we have a deeper connection with our audience, sales become easier. Scaling becomes easier. Getting likes and engagement on our content starts to become easier. And so it's not about it's not necessarily that haters are a good thing. It's that haters are a sign of possible deep connection happening with the people that you need. And when we keep our attention and our focus on the connection and the deepness of helping people and the depth of helping people, it becomes a very powerful place to operate. And the thing with haters is the more haters, the more powerful you actually become. Okay. So you may be going like, Ryan, I don't understand it. I get more haters and I become more powerful. Well, it's because it becomes a challenge. And so what I found is that typically what will happen is when people first start online, and if you're still discovering your message or trying to transition to a new message, or haven't had any haters yet, and you start to get your first couple haters, there's usually one of two things that happen. Number one, you let it destroy you and you stop, either permanently or temporarily, and you really let it get to you. And if that's you, trust me, that's totally normal. Don't feel bad for doing that. Like, that is a normal thing that will happen. The more haters you get, the more you get used to it, right? But that will be one of the ways you handle it. You let it really bother you, really get to you, pause you, kind of force you to forget who you are instead of remembering who you are, not be authentic, and kind of take a back seat a little bit. And then what will happen, usually the next phase of that, is that you get over it. You delete it, you block it, and you move on. And the more that happens, the better and easier it becomes to get over it. So what we have to realize is the more haters we get, the more we tend to get used to it. And a lot of the times, the reason why it really hurts the first couple times is because it's new. And anything new and different sends our system into fight or flight or different responses, right? So the more that we start to get haters, usually what happens is the more you tend to get used to it, and the better you get at ignoring it, deleting and blocking and things like that. And the more that we lose attachment to what the haters have to say, the more powerful we become. And what I have found is the more haters you have, that you tend to be able to lose the attachment of what they say faster and easier. So what actually starts to happen is over time, you become more powerful. And so you start to realize that the haters actually become a blessing. And when the haters become a blessing, you really start to lean into your message even more, because you just don't give an F anymore. It's like, go back and listen to the episode I did about canceling cancel culture. Like, no one's going to cancel you unless you cancel yourself, unless you let them get to you. You let them in that external world and influence your internal world. That's when we start to lose our power. We start to lose our message. But when we look at people like Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, Simon Sinek, or even like Pat Flynn, they're all different. And they're all different messages, different personalities, but they all seem to do really well. And it's because they're really remembering who they are, leaning into their values. And one of the things I want you guys to understand is that they all do it their way. And a lot of people will tell you that their way is not good or right. And for example, I'll look at Grant Cardone, because he is a little kind of like bro-ish and just very masculine energy and just kind of like really, intense. And then we look at someone like Pat Flynn, who's a little softer, a little bit more mellow, and a little bit more by the quote unquote, by the book, so to speak. And they both do it their ways and they connect with their audience. But what tends to happen, and I think where a lot of haters come in, is someone might look at Grant Cardone and go like, that guy's wrong. He does it the bad way or the wrong way. But what you don't realize, and you find yourself in that situation, start to realize that all people inherently are good. Most people are inherently good and are doing things that they believe are okay and right. And when I look at someone like Grant Cardone, he's literally trying to help you. And he'll tell you like, I'm here to help you. And what I've come to realize is Grant Cardone's just come very good at playing the game of life, the game of business, the game of making money. And that's essentially what it is. And he wants to teach it to you. And he's inherently good. But, people are grown up with their own beliefs and their own values. And sometimes people think that like flying on a private jet is evil, or money's not the end all be all, or whatever it is. And so they start labeling bad good, and haters start to form. And what I've realized through all the hate that I've gotten from different people is that people start to hate me from all sorts of different things. Some people don't like me because I charge high prices, and we had haters on that because they think that I'm greedy because I charge higher prices. And I look at that and I go, I charge higher prices because I want to be able to make the same amount of revenue with less people so I can actually show up and serve my people better. It's not so I can line my pockets with more money. I make more sales to do that. It's not because I charge higher prices. It's because I actually want to have a better service. And so everyone's always going to have these different beliefs and systems going on. And I just started to realize, like, when I get a hater, it's just because they're indoctrinated into a way of thinking. They're indoctrinated into certain beliefs or attached to certain identities. And it's not that I'm doing something bad. It's not that I'm doing something quote unquote evil, or I'm not doing something mean. It's that I'm simply doing something that conflicts with their beliefs or their past experiences or their identities or what they believe to be right or wrong. And it doesn't mean that because they have one way of right or wrong, that my way is different. And again, I've had haters for all sorts of things. I've had haters come at me because they still think doing educational videos all the time is the best way to do it. I have people come at me because they didn't like a metaphor that I used in an ad. I've had, and it didn't make sense to them. I've had people come at me because I charge, like I said, high prices. I've had people come at me because of the way that I look. I've had people, although it may sound weird, I've had people come at me because of the color of my skin. And being a white male, that may sound weird because you probably wouldn't think that, but that does happen. And but none of it bothers me. I don't care. I just keep being who I am and standing up for what I believe in. And so what I've realized is that anytime someone's trying to do something to help people, they're usually trying to do it with a good intention, but they're leaning into who they are and what they believe in, what they like, what they value. And a lot of people like to talk crap on, like people using Lambos in their ads. Like who cares if someone uses a Lambo in an ad? Why does that bother you? That's the better question. Why does what someone does in an ad bother you so much that you have to complain, whine, and bitch and moan about it? That's a much better question. And labeling them as bad and wrong is just a waste of your time and a waste of your energy. And that person's probably not going to stop because you don't like it. And they shouldn't stop because you don't like it. They're trying to do something to educate people, to help people. And they're marketing. That's it. It's called marketing. And they're doing it in a way to attract people that have the same values as them, people that want the Lambos and the big houses. So who cares? Let them do the thing. And when you start to let people do their thing and you get haters, it's very easy to also move on and do your thing. And you just get to this place of ultimate power. One of the things that I've realized as well is that when we get a lot of haters, it is due to, usually in a lot of cases, because of their insecurities. And so there's a lot of judgment that you'll get. But usually what it comes down to is if they were in your shoes, they would feel, and this is where a lot of judgment comes, is that they're insecure about something that you're doing, or if they were in your shoes, they would be embarrassed by something or uncomfortable with something. And so what I mean by this is what I have found is that when someone has an insecurity, like let's just say someone has an insecurity of being overweight, they might hate on overweight people, make fun of their appearance, because if they were overweight and putting themselves out there like that person does, they would be embarrassed or insecure. And so that's where the insecurities come from. And sometimes when people don't have a lot of money and you are successful and you do have a lot of money and you kind of use it in your advertising, they don't like it because of their own insecurity. Or a lot of times bro marketing gets a bad rap. And that's because there's someone who wouldn't use bro marketing in their own marketing. And if they were a bro marketer, they would be embarrassed. They have an insecurity about that. So usually what happens is when we're judging other people or we're hating on other people, it stems from our own insecurity. And so what I have realized is that going through a lot of my own insecurities and healing a lot of my own insecurities, which by the way, I still have a lot. I haven't gone through and healed everything. I think it's gonna be a lifelong journey. Um, but going through and healing some of my own insecurities and being able to see people doing things differently than me, and being able to see people who have different values than I do doing things instead of letting it bother me, I've actually looked at myself and my own insecurities and healed a lot of those. And after going through that healing process in my own, what I've been able to do is look at the people that leave hateful stuff on my comments, and I'm able to see where their insecurity lies. And I actually have compassion because I know what it's like to have an insecurity. I know what it's like to go through it and heal it. And I know what it's like to want to leave comments on people's stuff and prove them wrong and all those things. Like, I'm not immune to that. I've definitely seen people marketing a certain way and saying certain things online. I'm like, that I don't agree with, and wanting to like prove them wrong, but I don't. I move on. I'm save my energy for my own brand and my own people and my own message. And so you have to understand that a lot of that stuff comes from insecurities. And that, for me, that's been a very helpful way of kind of overcoming, I guess not necessarily the trauma, but the difficulty of dealing with haters. The other thing too is, for me, one of the things that I really strive at, and I've been striving, probably for the last 6 years, is just working on my own internal happiness and just living in kindness, gratitude, and happiness as much as I can. And that's an internal inside job. And what tends to happen is when we let the external influence us, or we're too attached to the external, or we give the external too much power, it actually starts to distort the internal that we have. And so for me, I started to realize that haters actually are an external element trying to destroy my internal element. And to me, my internal element is so precious that I have to protect it. And being able to lose attachment to what the haters say, or just learning that delete and block works very well, has been a huge thing to maintain my own internal happiness and contentment. And it makes me more powerful. It makes me so much more powerful because I'm not wasting energy on things that don't matter. Because if someone leaves a hateful comment, it literally doesn't matter. And I want you to think about something. The next time someone leaves you a hateful comment, I want you to realize all it probably was a video, a piece of content, an ad that popped up in their newsfeed. You said some words, you wrote out some words, they didn't like it, they dealt with their own insecurity, they lashed out, and then they moved on. I promise you, they moved on. You're not in their mind anymore. They left the comment, they feel good, they released whatever they needed to release, and they're gone. They're not thinking about you or wasting any more time or energy on you. But what happens to most of us is we let them continue to steal our energy, to steal our personal power, to steal our internal happiness. And that is not a place to operate a business from. And so if they're not thinking about you after they left their comment, why do you continue to think about them? Because it's nothing more than a waste of time, a waste of energy, a waste of personal power. And I promise you, it does not help you make more sales or serve your people any better. In fact, it hurts those things. Okay. So a couple things that may help, again, is setting boundaries on what is acceptable to delete and block and what is acceptable to respond to. Now, I will tell you guys, sometimes there will be people who genuinely care, are curious, and don't agree with what you're saying and are calm about it. They're nice about it. They're curious. And so they may leave a comment that says, this is very interesting, but I have a different perspective. I think da 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 da. And I want you to realize that that person's not really a hater. That's someone who's trying to say, like, this is kind of my point of view, but I'm listening to what you're saying. And it's more of a conversation. Now, you can reply to those people or not, but understand that that person's not really trying to be malicious. They're trying to understand a little bit better. And so what I have found is when I can put boundaries in place of what I respond to and what I don't, it becomes very easy to figure out how to handle the situation. And if you come into a situation with a hater and you have not prepped yourself on how to handle it or what to do, it actually starts to steal more of your energy. And so what I have done is I've become very good at having my own internal navigation of what gets deleted and blocked, what gets responded to, what am I going to view as a hateful comment, and what am I going to put my energy into, and what am I not going to. So as you start to put more content out, run ads, I think it would be a great idea to set some boundaries of what you're willing to invest energy into and what you're not. And if you're not willing to invest into people who just have a different perspective, that's great. Just don't respond to them. But when it comes up, you know how to handle it. If someone's being malicious and you're like, okay, cool, I'm not going to respond to that. I'm just going to delete and block. Great. You don't even have to think about it anymore. You just delete and block. Or you just tell your team and you'll never even see the comment. So having boundaries really helps. Having a focus on internal happiness really helps. Having compassion and show kindness to people, even if they are writing hateful things, has helped me a lot. Deleting and blocking has really helped out a lot as well. And so for me, all I do is just delete and block anytime those things come up. I really have zero tolerance. I have my boundaries set and I know what I'm going to respond to and I know what I'm not going to respond to. And I just delete and block and I never think about it ever again. I move on with my life. The next thing is showing kindness. And I always tell my kids, one of the things I tell my kids, like, if they have a disagreement at school or someone is being a little mean to them or picking on them, one of the things that I have found to be true, and again, obviously this is not something you should use all the time. You still need to have your boundaries and stuff, but is that it's really hard to be mean to someone who continues to show you kindness. And I know, and it's pretty clear that there have been peers and even people that I've gone on vacation with, through various masterminds and things like that, and people that I've run into in the space that just don't like me. And that's fine. They don't need them to like me, but I can still show them kindness. There's people that don't believe in my message, but I'm still friends with them. I'm literally friends with people that have built their business doing only how-to content, and I tell people not to do that. And we're still friends. Why? Because we show kindness and respect to each other, and we still accept each other, and we know there's not one right way to do anything. And we're going to stand up for our way, and the people that want to go our path or have had problems with other people's paths and want to come onto ours now will come, and we will be the leaders for the people that need us. And I think so much we get so wrapped up in being right. And actually that's a big problem with messaging that a lot of people do is they get so wrapped up in being right, or they get so wrapped up in being a know-it-all, and they let the ego and arrogant and their tenal to take over and control their actions and how they respond and their internal state and all of that stuff. And so what I found also is that when you start to accept all people, and this is something that I've worked on as well, because I've had a lot of internal anger, from different experiences that I've had in my life. I've had my own insecurities. I've had a lot of work that I've had to do. And part of that work is really accepting all people, even if it's someone who I know doesn't like me, is mean to me, is rude to me, or doesn't believe in my message. I will still be kind. And a lot of people will show kindness back. I obviously have my boundaries. I won't put myself around people that are toxic, are stealing my energy, are consistently, negative or constantly being hateful towards me. But I will still show people kindness. And a lot of the times, a lot of people who normally have their guards up or don't like what you're doing, and you show them kindness over and over and over again, they tend to back off. They tend to show kindness back. Again, it's not across the board, but that is something that I found with a lot of people that you can't really get rid of, like the brothers, the sisters, the friends. And trust me, I've seen it all and I've experienced it all. When we started our business, our friends were literally telling Jacqueline, my wife, to just give me 6 months and then cut me off after that because I should go find a job. Like it was part of their business, right? Like it was giving Jacqueline life advice on what I should be doing. Like it was their job to make sure that I did the right thing. And we've had, even family members tell us like, oh, maybe you should get a job. Like, what are you doing? You're living with your in-laws. You've been there for 4 years. Maybe you should probably go get a job or do whatever. And it's really funny because a lot of those people are now coming back to us asking for business advice. And I was like, hey, remember, part of the ego wants to go back and be like, remember 8 years ago when you told me I should go get a job? Well, yeah, but I tend not to go there. Try not to go there. So anyways, I hope this episode was helpful for you guys. I just wanted to talk about haters because it really is a problem. And I do think that, cancel culture is really becoming a problem. And I think it's causing a lot of people to be afraid to be themselves, to remember who they are. It's causing a lot of people their authenticity. It's causing a lot of people their personal power. And if you're serious about building an online business and putting content out there and having a message that you stand for, authenticity, personal power, remembering who you are absolutely vital. And they're huge parts of our program as well, because it is absolutely vital. Powerful people create powerful messages, and powerful people aren't afraid of getting hateful comments on the internet because you can just delete and block, and they embrace who they are and they connect with people who are the most like them and help those people. And so I want you to think about that the next time you're putting out content. If there were no haters out there, what would you say? What would you do? If you knew that people would embrace the message, what would the message say? I'm going to give you guys a little test here before we wrap up. I want you to think about if you knew that your message would be embraced by everyone around you. If you knew that whatever you wanted to say and whatever you wanted to stand for and whatever you wanted to teach, you knew was going to be embraced by everyone around you and you wouldn't get a single hater, would that change compared to what you're saying now? How you're showing up now? What type of content you're putting out now? So again, let me ask you that question. If you envisioned for a second and you were saying exactly what you wanted to say, exactly how you wanted to say it, teaching exactly what you wanted to say, and you knew it was going to be embraced and you would not get a single hater, would it be identical to what you're currently saying now and pushing out in your content? If the answer is no, then there's some work there you have to do, because there is some sort of fear of haters, of judgment from other people. And when you start to finally embrace who you are and what you want to say, it becomes a very powerful place. Powerful people create powerful messages. With that said, we'll end here, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.